Hello everyone and welcome to day 22 of Terrorthon, the Copper Age of Horror. Again, just like the Tin Age of Horror, this is a term that I have completely invented on my own, and it covers the period of 2002 all the way through to the present day. Now, spoiler alert, there weren't very many horror icons, if any, that were born during this period. So unfortunately, the best we can do is to highlight some key horror films from this period. It's all part of the story of horror, so with this we will be complete and up to the present day. So, 2002, this is when the horror remakes started. Of course, this isn't a problem that's exclusive to horror, but we've had remakes constantly since the early 2000s, including Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 2003, Dawn of the Dead in 2004, a good remake by the way, The Grudge in 2004, another good one, and Friday the 13th in 2009, not so good. And as covered in yesterday's video, this is when torture porn was born as well. So we had Saw in 2004, Hostel in 2005, and Martyrs in 2008. So, you know, we've covered this. As the viewing public were so desensitized to horror by this point, we were getting a lot of comedy horrors as well, killer comedies, such as Shaun of the Dead in 2004, Slither in 2006, and Zombieland in 2009, which again we've covered. As I say, we really have got a comprehensive history of horror on our hands here. We also had a lot of foreign horror movies coming out now with the dawn of the internet and subtitles not really being an issue thanks to DVDs. So we had the likes of Wreck in 2007, a found footage horror movie, and one of my favourites, Let the Right One In, a Swedish horror movie in 2008. But despite all that, there was still some serious, unique horror coming out in this period. We had The Descent in 2005, fantastic movie. Eden Lake in 2008, which is probably underrated by American audiences. Cloverfield in 2008, which is found footage, and another found footage in 2009, Paranormal Activity, which we all know became a massive franchise, spawning like 7 sequels, I think it was. And this one wasn't really celebrated as much as it should have been, but I'd like to highlight it. Trick or Treat in 2009, an anthology horror movie. Very, very good. And this was an attempt to create a new horror icon in Sam, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I wish it had. And then we moved right into the 2010s when horror began to get a bit smarter. As I said, audiences were desensitized to everything at this point, so the usual jump scares with loud violins wasn't going to cut it anymore. It was time to get into your head. And yet, having said that, we were still getting crappy remakes, like A Nightmare on Elm Street in 2010. The Halloween reboot in 2018 was good, as was It in 2017. I recommend both of those. But this decade really belongs to James Wan and Lee Whannell. Kinda, when you think about it, the Copper Age of Horror entirely belongs to them because they created Saw. But they also made Insidious in 2010, which got 3 sequels, and there's another one coming out in 2023. And they created the Conjuring universe. It started with 1 movie in 2013, and now we have 7 movies with 2 more in future, so the Copper Age of Horror really belongs to them when you think about it. But there were other key directors, which we'll get to. But we also had the self-referential Cabin in the Woods in 2011, fantastic movie. And The Purge was very popular as well, that came out in 2013. That got 4 sequels and a TV series, it was huge, believe it or not. I surely don't. And we had The Babadook in 2014, very psychological, very good movie. It Follows in 2015, highly recommend that one. And A Quiet Place in 2018. These are all fantastic movies, so even though we were living in the age of remakes and a bankruptcy of imagination, there was still some good stuff coming out, and every movie I've mentioned so far, more or less, I recommend. We also had Robert Eggers entering the fray with The Witch in 2015, and The Lighthouse in 2019, which for me single-handedly revived Robert Pattinson's career. He was amazing in it. And we can't talk about the 2010s horror without mentioning Jordan Peele. He directed Get Out in 2017 and Us in 2019 and another, which we'll get to. And these movies are stellar as well. And this is when the Universal monsters tried to make a comeback. Universal Studios tried to create what they called a dark universe and bring back all the classic monsters, have the movies cross over with each other. It sounded like it was going to be really cool. It started with a remake of The Wolfman in 2010, which I really should have mentioned in the werewolf video. But then the Dark Universe fell flat in 2017 when The Mummy starring Tom Cruise came out. It was fucking abysmal. But they kind of redeemed themselves with The Invisible Man in 2020. I recommend that one, even if not everyone does. I think it's pretty damn good. And we also had Ari Aster, who directed Hereditary in 2018. Fantastic. and Midsummer in 2019, which I've not seen, but I've heard it's nowhere near as good as Hereditary, so take that as you will. And he's got a new film coming out next year in 2023 with Disappointment Boulevard. I'll be going to see it, and I hope you will too. And then we get to the 2020s. Wow, here we are already. So, COVID. It hit us all, it continues to hit us all, and it slowed down movie production considerably for obvious reasons, social distancing. And what was interesting was a horror movie came out in 2020 which took place over a Zoom call called Host. I recommend it, it's pretty damn good. Very short too. Of course, we had streaming services were very, very popular by this point. Pretty much everyone has a Netflix account, if not Disney Plus and, Shudder as well. So a lot of movies were coming out, a lot of indie flicks as well, like The Empty Man in 2020. And this had its ups and downs. It did mean that a lot of movies were just getting lost in the ocean of crap that was coming out. And of course, the remakes continued with the likes of Candyman in 2021 and Scream, which came out this year. And here we are, 2022. The only movies I have heard of this year that are worth seeing are Nope by Jordan Peele and Prey, a sequel to the Predator series, which I have seen, and I think it's the best Predator movie since the first one, so get that watched. And that is it, my friends. We are up to the present day. There's nowhere left to go. The only thing left to discuss would be the future of horror, but I am certainly not qualified to do that. I, for one, hope that horror continues to grow and thrive, but we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, we've had a hell of a run, guys. See you tomorrow.